Hello once again, options traders, and I just wanted to do a little recap on some of the screenshots that I've been posting here recently. So today is March 4th of 2020, and as we all know that we're going through this coronavirus scare, we've had a number of really volatile days, and in the past couple of days I have posted some screenshots of what are called market profiles, or as Thinkorswim calls them, monkey bars. So I've had some traders emailing and saying, well, where do you find these on Thinkorswim? How do you interpret them? And how are they formed? What are we actually looking at here? So good question. So let's jump over to the TOS platform. So here's the charting package in TOS, and we're looking at SPY, S&P 500 ETF. And we can see the big fall that we've taken. And as I've mentioned in previous videos and in this group, talking about the 5 key major moving averages. 4 of them are right here, and these will typically show us levels of support and resistance. So we got a nice support down here off the 500, but take a look at today's candle. This one right here on the far right. It's supporting nicely right off the 200. But also notice that it's a fairly narrow candle. It's not a real wide body. So we can see that the prices are fairly tightly knit, at least right now, because yesterday started out the same way, and you can see it ended up being a very long-bodied candle. But for right now, it's fairly narrow. Now it's 11:30, so the markets have been open for 2 hours, so prices again are fairly tight. But the candle doesn't tell you how it got formed. There's really an infinite number of ways we could create this same candle, just depending on the way that the prices have formed, as long as we have the same high and low and open and current price. And you would get exactly the same candles. So we either need to resort to an intraday chart, or this could be a really good time to take a look at the market profile. So the way we do that in Thinkorswim is we come up here to Style, click there, and then right down here where it says Chart Mode, you want to select Monkey Bars. Choose that, and there we go. Now you can also choose different time frames. I'm going to choose 1-minute periods just for this video so we can see the changes more rapidly. But we can also look at a number of days. So if I want to go back for 5 days or 10 days and make comparisons, I could do that as well. So let's start there. So it's just nice. We can go back and we can make comparisons and see how prices have formed, where the value areas are. But just for this video, to make it a little easier to see, I'm going to just zoom in on today's chart right here. So what are we looking at? Well, the first thing to understand is that this is a histogram. And I think most of you know what that is. You've seen it in statistics and a number of different websites with financial markets. Pretty hard to not see them. But this is one where we're looking at the roll of 2 dice and adding up the face-up sides. So we know the smallest number is 2, the highest is 12. And this just shows us the percentage of times that we would get these numbers. So notice that if I take this chart and flip it on its side, now take a look at the monkey bars right here. It's the same thing. Over on the right-hand side are the prices, and on the left are the volumes. Now for right now, you can see that the prices here in green are also corresponding and matching up with the highest volume in red over here to the left. But that's not always going to be true. But for right now, the largest bar, the tallest bar, also happens to be where most of the volume is occurring. So let's back up and talk a little bit about how these bars are getting formed. How is TOS doing this? Well, the first thing is that they are creating some arbitrary widths on these bars. And right now they're at 60 cents wide. So let's just focus on this green one right here because it's a little easier to see. The bottom of it is 304.60 and the top of it looks like 305.20. So again, that's 60 cents wide. You can change those widths, but I have it set to automatic. And so for this particular underlying, TOS has chosen 60 cents wide. And so what it does is it's just tracking prices at certain time intervals. So I have chosen this chart to be at 1-minute intervals. And usually when the markets are open, I would start there, maybe go to 2 minutes later. Right now I would normally be looking at 5-minute intervals, but for this video, so that you can see the changes much more rapidly, I'm going to leave it at 1 minute. And so here's what TOS is doing. It's starting with this color coding scheme over here with pink, and then it's going to go to green, kind of this cream color, blue, orange, and so on. And because I have my time frame set to a minute, during the first minute when the market is open, we're going to be looking at pink numbers. But we're going to start with the number 1 for the first minute, the number 2 for the second minute, and so on, and the number 0 when we get to that 10th minute. So if we look at the numbers 0 through 9, those are the 10 digits we have to work with. That's a 10-minute period. And once we run through that, we're going to start with the number 1, but in green. And then during the second minute, we'll get a green 2, and then a green 3, and so on, all the way up to a green 0, and then we're going to shift to this color. So how is Thinkorswim coming up with the width of these bars right here? Well, let's come down here, and the current price is in this little gold ring right here, this 304.95. But you also want to keep your eye on this gold triangle. The gold triangle is the current bar that we've just recently had our most recent price drop in right here. So remember, these bars are 60 cents wide. So unless we get a new number outside of this 60-cent range, which it looks like we just did because the gold triangle just jumped. So now we're into this bar. And so what it's going to do is it's going to say during the next minute, if that's in the 4th minute, we had some prices in here. And so it's going to drop in a number 4 because we're up to number 4 right now. So the next number that's going to drop in will be 5. Now I've set a timer on my phone. We should be coming up here in about another 15 seconds, and so we should see a number 5 drop in, depending. Now if we're back into here, it'll drop in here. If we're up here, it's going to drop into here. So keep your eye, and there it goes. There's the 5. So that's the 1 minute mark. It tells us that during this minute period, we had the prices were within this 60-cent range. Now as a side note, let's say we get a big pop or a drop. Maybe the next print is way up here, goes up 70 or 80 cents. Then you're going to see 6s fill all the way through here. Because what TOS is telling you is that all of these prices were included during that 6th minute, at least the 6th minute of this color. So we're coming up pretty close here, and we should see a number 6 drop in. So again, if it is in this 60-cent range, we'll see the 6 drop in here. If we get a new price, it will drop into that new bar. So coming up fairly shortly here in the next 10 seconds, we should see it. And it looks like it's going to fall right in here, and there it goes. There's number 6. Okay, so that just tells us that during that last minute, the prices were in this 60-cent range. All right, so it's going to just keep going, and then once we run out of digits here in this dark green, which means it will have to be a dark green 0, then we look up here and we'll see that we're going to switch to gray. And we'll start with the number 1, and it just keeps repeating. So what you're looking at here is how many times have prices stacked up in these bars. So again, it's just a sideways histogram. But now notice something interesting. What they call the point of control, the largest volume bar, isn't matching up with the tallest bar. So it looks like this might become where the price action is heading. So we might be getting a pull up into this 60-cent range. We can see we just dropped in number 7 right there. And so now it looks like maybe traders are heading up into this area. This is becoming where most of the volume and most of the price action is occurring. So we can watch this through the day, and it's interesting. Sometimes you'll get bimodal distributions. You'll see all kinds of interesting things happen, but it's just giving you an idea of how this candle is getting formed. What's taking place inside that candle. Now Thinkorswim also, if you look closely here, this little box right here, they call that the value area or the playground. This is the monkey bar, is the longest bar at the moment, and this shaded area is what's called the value area, and it's 70% of this range right here. So it's kind of just saying here's the bulk of where the price action has occurred. But if we go back in time, let's take a look at maybe the past we'll go back the past 5 days here, and we can change our scale down here so we can look at what has occurred over the past 5 trading days. So again, always going to get fairly symmetrical, kind of bell-shaped curves, but you can see between this date here, which was 2/28, and 3.2 right here, big change in price, much higher because this bell curve is sitting much higher than this one. And the longest bar where most of the price action was taking place also corresponded to where the most volume was occurring. And again, that won't always be true. So you can see on this date, we did have more of the price action up into here, but we had a lot more volume down here. And again, this is kind of what they call the point of control. So these are really discussions for different days, but for right now, I just wanted to show you at least how to read the monkey bar. And so that when you're looking at these, when I post them on the Facebook page, you'll at least understand what they mean. And for anyone who'd like to learn more about the art and science of options trading, please check out the Alpha Trader course and Strategy Lab at optionsatoz.com. Also, please join us on the Facebook trading group Options A to Z, and you can find a link in the description below.